Tuesday, October 28, 2025, AGNDD intelliReport topic, Timor-Leste. Please pardon any visual and informational inaccuracies in this entirely AI-generated article-based video. Discover Timor-Leste's fascinating name, origins, and ancient history, from etymology to early settlements and cultural evolution. Timor-Leste's name originates from Timor, meaning east in Malay, creating tautologies like Timor, East in Indonesian, or Timor-Leste, East in Portuguese. In Tetum, it's Timor-Leste, where the sun rises. Official constitutional names are Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste, English, República Democrática de Timor-Leste, Portuguese, and República Democrática Timor-Leste, Tetum. The short form is Timor-Leste, with ISO codes TLS and TL. Timor-Leste's history dates to 42,000 years ago, with remains at Jaramalai. Early Australo-Melanesian migrants introduced Papuan language precursors, followed by suspected Austroasiatic speakers and Austronesian peoples who brought agriculture and merged cultures. Origin myths trace settlers from Malay Peninsula or Sumatra. By the 13th century, interconnected polities, sukos and kingdoms led by Liurai, worldly ruler, and Rai IX, spiritual, operated under customary law, enduring until Portuguese rule ended. Timor exported sandalwood, honey, and wax via Asian networks, attracting European traders in the 16th century with initial Portuguese settlement on Solor. Portuguese presence in Timor began sporadically in the 17th century after Dutch expulsions, shifting bases to Flores, Kupang, lost 1652, Lifau, and Dili, founded 1769. The 1914 border divided Dutch and Portuguese zones. East Timor was a neglected outpost exporting sandalwood and coffee with minimal investment. Early 20th century exploitation sparked resistance. Tu'u saw Allied then Japanese occupation with a deadly guerrilla war killing 70,000 civilians. Post-1950s investments were limited. After Portugal's 1974 revolution, civil war erupted. Fretilin declared independence in 1975. Indonesia invaded, annexing it as its 27th province in 1976, despite UN opposition. Fretilin resisted Indonesia's invasion of East Timor as an army until 1978, then as guerrillas. The occupation caused 200,000 deaths from violence, hunger, and illness. Repression negated health education gains, benefiting Indonesian immigrants. The 1991 massacre of 200-plus protesters spurred global pressure. In 1999, a UN-supervised referendum favored independence, triggering militia violence backed by Indonesian forces. Interfet peacekeepers restored order, transitioning to UNTAYET administration by October 1999, with full UN military control by February 2000. East Timor achieved independence in 2002 after UN-organized elections in 2001, with Xanana Gusmao as first president. It joined the UN in September 2002. A 2006 crisis displaced 155,000, prompting UN intervention. José Ramos Horta became president in 2007, Gusmao prime minister. Assassination attempts occurred in 2008. UN peacekeeping ended in 2012. Francisco Guterres was elected president in 2017. Taurmatan Ruak became prime minister in 2018. Ramos Horta returned as president in 2022. Timor-Leste ratified the Nuclear Weapons Prohibition Treaty in 2022. Timor-Leste operates a semi-presidential system with a directly elected president, limited formal powers but influential, and a prime minister appointed by parliament, heading the cabinet. The unicameral national parliament, 65 seats, uses party list proportional representation with a 3% threshold and gender quotas, ensuring over a third women MPs. Multi-party politics, dominated by Fretilin and CNRT, reflect personality-driven and east-west divides. Elections are fair with high turnout, 70 to 85%. The judiciary is independent, though executive influence occurs. Democracy scores mid-range, strong in freedoms and security. Civil society and media are active. Timor-Leste has relied on international aid, 80% of budget pre-oil, and UN missions, 5 from 1999 to 2012, for security and development. It pursues ASEAN membership for economic and security benefits, gaining observer status in 2011 and full admission planned for October 2025. It's active in G7+ and CPLP, with observers in Pacific groups. Key donors include Australia, Portugal, Germany, and Japan. Relations with Australia and Indonesia are vital despite past tensions, resolved via 2018 Maritime Treaty. China aids infrastructure. The small FFDTL, 2,200 troops, handles defense and crime, cooperating with allies. Timor-Leste is divided into 14 municipalities, subdivided into 64 administrative posts, 442 sucos, villages, and 2,225 aldeias, hamlets. Established under Portuguese rule, the system remains centralized in Dili, with limited decentralization. Municipalities, renamed in 2009, are led by centrally appointed civil servants advised by elected locals since 2016. AGNDD is a special administrative region with its own civil service since 2015. Ataro became a municipality in 2022 and may become a special economic zone. Sucos and aldeias embody traditional customs and community identity, with elected leaders holding informal influence but no formal powers. Timor-Leste, on the island of Timor in the Lesser Sunda Islands, spans 14,874 sq.km, shared with Indonesia, including Okusay Exclave and Ataro Island. Mountainous terrain features Tatamalau at 2,963 m with tropical climate. Wet season, Dekme, brings heavy rain, up to 252 mm/month, dry season minimal, vulnerable to floods, landslides, and climate change. Diverse ecosystems include coral reefs in the Coral Triangle, Nino Conas Santana National Park with dry forests, and 35% forest cover. Threats: deforestation, overfishing, pollution. Capital: Dili. Timor-Leste boasts diverse fauna in its Timor and Wetar deciduous forests, with 38 mammal species including endemics like the Timor shrew and Timorese horseshoe bat. Introduced species include the Javan rusa and northern common cuscus. Others are crab-eating macaques, bats, dugongs, and Timor ponies. It hosts 289 bird species, with threatened ones like the Timor green pigeon, Wetar ground dove, and yellow-crested cockatoo, plus an endemic iris lorikeet subspecies. In the Coral Triangle, Ataro Island's reefs feature exceptional fish biodiversity, up to 642 species, resilient to bleaching but threatened by climate change and blast fishing. Preservation efforts include education and traditional Tara Bandu laws. Timor-Leste's economy is a market system reliant on oil and gas exports, with a large public sector and widespread poverty affecting over 40% of the population, especially in rural areas and among women. It uses the US dollar and depends on the Petroleum Fund, which held $19 billion in 2021 but faces depletion risks. Growth averaged 2.5% annually, 2011 to 2021, hampered by subsistence farming, food imports, and infrastructure weaknesses. Private sector lags due to human capital shortages and regulatory issues, with heavy government spending and foreign aid sustaining the economy amid a resource curse. Timor-Leste's population grew from 1.18 million in 2015 to 1.34 million in 2022, concentrated along coastlines with urban advantages in education, jobs, and healthcare. It's youthful, median age 20, with a large male youth bulge, 45% of males 15 plus age 15, 24. Demonyms include Timorese or East Timorese. Maubere signifies pride. Healthcare gets 6% budget. Life expectancy rose to 69.5, 2019. Education progress stalled post-2010. Poverty affects 45.8%, 2016. Fertility fell to 4.2. Households average 5.3 members, 41% under 15. Infant mortality, 31 thousandths. Child stunting, 46%, anemia widespread. Timor-Leste's communities are defined by familial ties and sacred house affiliations rather than strict ethnicity or language, with east-west distinctions rooted in history. Minorities include Mestico, Portuguese Timorese, Chinese Hakka, and smaller groups from India, Africa, and Yemen. Notable leaders like Ramos Horta and Gusmao are Mestico. Indigenous languages span Austronesian and Papuan families with 19 languages and dialects. Tetum is dominant, 30.6% mother tongue, followed by Mambai, Makassai, etc. 6 are endangered. Official languages, Portuguese and Tetum. Working, English Indonesian. Literacy, 77.8% in Tetum, 39.3% in Portuguese, 2012. Timor-Leste's adult literacy rate is 68%, rising to 84% for ages 15-24, slightly higher among women. More girls attend school, though puberty-related dropouts occur. In 2016, 22% of working-age women and 19% of men had no education. Literacy stood at 75% for women and 82% for men. Primary schools are widespread but low quality. Secondary schools are in municipal capitals. Education comprises 10% of the budget, with the National University of Timor-Leste as the main institution plus 4 colleges. Since independence, Portuguese has surged as the medium of instruction from 7% in 2001 to over 80% in primary by 2005, displacing Indonesian and Tetum, aided by Portuguese support. Timor-Leste's constitution upholds religious freedom and church-state separation, recognizing the Catholic Church's role in independence. It's one of Asia's 2 predominantly Catholic nations, with 97.6% Catholics per the 2022 census, 98.3% in 2016 surveys, alongside small Protestant, Muslim, and other minorities. Under Indonesian occupation, 1975 to 1999, Catholicism surged from 20% to 95% due to Pancasila's monotheism requirement, prompting mass conversions from animism. Churches grew from 100 in 1974 to over 800 by 1994, with Indonesian priests replacing Portuguese ones. The country has 3 dioceses. Rural areas blend Catholicism with animism. Post-1999, Protestant and Muslim numbers dropped as integration supporters fled. Timor-Leste's diverse cultures arose from Austronesian and Melanesian migrations, shaped by petty kingdoms, Portuguese influence, Catholicism, and Indonesian rule. Resistance to occupation reinforced ties to Portuguese language and faith, fostering a national identity post-independence, blending tradition with civic democracy. Rural areas preserve animist practices like lulik, sacredness, uma lulik houses, kinship systems, and ancestral leadership in disputes. Art includes gender-specific motifs, ties, textiles, poetry, and oral histories. Urban Dili is cosmopolitan, with historical architecture. Cinema debuted with 2013's Beatrice's War, depicting occupation-era struggles. In Timor-Leste, media is heavily concentrated in Dili. Newspapers are primarily published in Tetum and limited to the capital. Television stations are also Dili-based, with only one accessible outside the city. Radio remains the most popular medium thanks to low literacy rates, high newspaper costs relative to incomes, and broadcasts in regional languages. Press freedom is mixed, and as of 2022, 37% of the population were internet users. From ancient roots to colonial encounters, Timor-Leste's vibrant history continues to illuminate its path as a resilient nation where the sun rises.
Thank you for watching this AGNDD intelliReport, dear viewers. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell button to get notified during new uploads. And make sure to tune in next time. Stay safe and healthy. Cheers!